Are you more or less confident in the Badgers right now that we've seen a little bit of spring practice? And was the Portal Hall good enough? Live call-in show, confidence level, football and basketball. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, Badger fans? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your team every single day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Ryan Herrings. Appreciate all the everydayers for making this your first listen. We're doing a live call-in show, so if anybody wants to jump in and give their thoughts, this is kind of impromptu a little bit, so somebody dial in. But if not, we got a bunch of stuff we're going to talk about as well. I want to start here, confidence level, football, basketball. We're going to start with football. Do you feel better or worse right now than you did before spring, Justin?
I think better because we're actually getting positive reviews of things that could very well have been negatives. Like we brought in all these defensive linemen. We thought that they potentially could be bad, could be good, no idea. I think we felt fairly confident that the offensive line was going to be at least solid, if not very good potentially. So hearing that the defensive line is giving them some problems at times makes me feel a lot better about the fact, because let's be honest, last year they washed out a few times against our offensive line in practice too. And that really doesn't seem to have happened very often. The other part of it I'll say is there's positions that we have question marks that I feel like are starting to get answered. Dylan Jones at running back seems to start to separate and, make himself look like the guy. I think you and I probably both agree that he's probably the one that's likely to be the starter. Dupree's going to be kind of used as a Swiss Army knife, and you'll probably have Dupree be your bell cow. I'm sorry, Dylan Jones be your bell cow.
I think I'm better. I mean, it's always helpful to see things, and I saw one practice, so I don't want to make too much of that, but I got to talk to some coaches too. Dylan Jones looked really good. No hyperbole. He looks really good. He looks like the guy that we thought he would look like 1 year into the program. 4-star kid, runs between the tackles, decisive. A little bit of Corey Clement vibes with just the way he's running between the tackles with kind of that burst. I like him a lot. Good vision. And then I was impressed with the receivers.
Pre-injury Corey Clement?
Yes.
Okay. Let's be clear. Because he went from averaging like 7 yards a carry or whatever it was down to like 5.4 or whatever it was.
Not post-core injury, Corey Clement. Pre-injury. I think the receivers, to me, that was a big question coming in. And one of the biggest, I think, risers in stock for me, if you're going to look at everything as like a stock market, right? Jaden Ballard has looked really good. I mean, he looks like a guy who knows he has 1 year left of college. Yeah. I've thought Tyrell Henry has taken steps. Other people have said that. Chris Brooks has looked good. We haven't even seen Tretch out there. And Vinny looks like he's building on last year. So I think on those things, I feel pretty confident. Those are good signs for me. So, and Billy Edwards, I think let's start with quarterback. He looks like he's a plug-and-play guy. The team loves him. The offensive line loves him. The coaching staff loves him. And I think he can get us to solid at the quarterback spot.
Well, I mean, looking at this, I think people need to understand this team can be a lot better simply by having positions that are playing at an average level. What you're looking for, honestly, in some of these games is, does the position group give you a chance? Like, we're going to have a lot of games where Wisconsin's going to be a team that is not going to be the team that's expected to win. The question is, can the team not blow it for themselves? And I think that might be the difference this year compared to last year, is you now have position groups that feel like you can look at them and say, when push comes to shove, I know this position's going to fold. And I feel like we're getting more of a position where it's like defensive line might surprise us in some big moments this year, because we have some guys that are capable of potentially showing up and making plays. And I feel like that's the same thing. The running game, I think, is going the same way. I think we have guys that we're going to legitimately be able to lean on when in a big moment. Like, I think Jones is going to be one of those guys. I think Dupree's going to be one of those guys where you can conceivably put those two on the field at the same time and really put a defense in flex, because they're trying to figure out what we're going to do with those two guys.
There's weapons to use here. Power Spread Bucky, let's get you on the show. Again, this is a live show. It's kind of just impromptu, but if anybody wants to dial in, give us your confidence level, what you're concerned about. The link's in the chat. It's on Twitter. Just jump in. Just make sure you have your camera on because I got to just make sure you don't have anything crazy in the background or that you have clothes on. So both those things are important to me. Power Spread Bucky, man, what is going on, dude?
What's up, boys? Hey, one thing that we haven't really, well, I guess you guys really haven't talked about is the safety position. Austin Brown is one. Who's the other?
Zachman.
Zachman. Yeah.
Zachman? Yep. Okay. I feel like they could have. I mean, I'm not the biggest Austin Brown guy. I think, he's smart enough and he's got the size, but I feel like they could have done better. I know you got Trainer and you got the D3 guy behind him, but I think that could be a pretty big weakness this year. Assuming that guys get home, we should be better in coverage, but I'm not sold on the safety position.
See, I'm actually pretty high on Brown as a player out there. I think he's been overshadowed by what we've seen. Obviously, Wooler out there.
Right.
Zachman's solid. I actually think that from an athleticism standpoint, Brown gives you some ability there. We do have some questions probably about how he's going to be in terms of, is he going to be consistent enough? Because this is the first time we're going to see major snaps from him. I will say this. Both of the freshman safeties sound like hits. Emmerich and Dean both sound like they're going to be legitimate guys, potentially starter level by next year.
Yeah.
Might hurt you this year, though. Here's one thing I'd say in Power Spread. I think it's a good point. I don't think, if you look at the safety room, the one thing that we don't have is a really, really rangy upperclassman. So I worry a little bit at times playing the explosive teams, but I feel like that's always been a bit of an issue for Wisconsin. I could see that potentially an issue, man. I'm not sure if that's what you're alluding to or not, but the pass rush has to get home.
Yeah, a little bit, and I don't think Hunter Wooler really had the year that we were all hoping for last year.
No, not at all.
And I think a lot of that's because he didn't trust the guys in front of him. And if that happens again this year, I don't think Austin Brown has, Hunter Wooler's size and talent to.
There's nobody in that room that does.
Yeah,
he had the best instincts of anybody that.
Yeah,
we've had in a little bit.
That's my concern. I think Hunter Wooler is going to be a steal in the draft. Like I think he's a good player who just didn't have the guys in front of him. And if that happens again, I think we might be in trouble. But hey, guys, thanks. I love listening to you, and I'll just hang up and listen. Thanks, boys.
Appreciate you, brother. Hey, really quick, if you have one more second, what's your confidence level right now, 1 to 10 on football? Do you feel good about this program right now?
I was like a 2 on the basketball program going into this year, and I was pleasantly surprised. So I'll give it a 5. I mean, with the schedule, if we make a bowl game, that's a win, which just saying that really sucks to just say, but I just hope that we're not talking Luke Fickell hot seat going into year 4, because that's going to be a long off season. So I hope that they can just show us something this year and make us feel good and say Luke's the guy. Yeah, man. I just hope that they make a bowl game, beat Minnesota, beat Iowa. If you do that and beat Nebraska or whoever else, beat the teams we're supposed to beat, and I think that's a win, which is kind of sad. But at this point, we got to take what we can get.
Dude, got to beat Minnesota and Iowa. I agree. All right, brother. I appreciate you for dialing in, man.
All right. Peace, boys.
I want to take a quick second here because the next, and both asked, by the way, confident to do what? I would say make progress, to be better, to show real growth in this program.
Can you be 6-6 or 7-5? And can you look like you can compete in the games where maybe you get an Oregon coming in at their B level or C plus level? Can you play with them and potentially even pull an upset? Like, that's what we need. This team needs to be able to prove that they're capable of, if we don't get the best shot of one of those teams, that they can make them pay for it. That's kind of this first step for this group. It's going to be incremental again. Wisconsin's got to grow back to where they were. And part of it's going to be teams don't respect us now. We've got to earn the respect back. And that's going to happen through potentially catching a couple teams that don't take us as seriously as they should.
That is kind of a sad way to word it, though, right? Considering where we were to where we are now, and we're hoping some teams don't take us as seriously as they used to. Like, I agree with you, but it's also like
last year, both Penn State and Oregon were games that we should have won those games. If this team has legs, we should have taken them out.
We shouldn't have knocked Aller out of the game. We should have left him in the game. I think we win it. Honestly,
that could have happened.
I think we beat Penn State if Drew Aller stays in that game.
Probably.
There's a question up here. Is there a phone number to call in? Badger Boy. So I put the invite link in the chat. So just click on that. You can jump in the show. Again, this is a show. If anybody wants to jump in, man, confidence level. I do want to take a break here because the next topic, Justin, you've been getting attacked a little bit about your take on Michigan. Justin wants to know why you think Michigan is a potential coin flip game. After the break.
Absolutely.
Coming up after the break, and I'm probably going to disagree with Justin on that one, which is good. Disagreements are great. Coming up next, we're going to get into that, plus confidence level on the portal hole, and anybody else that if you want to dial in, hit that invite, jump on the show, give us your takes. First, a quick break for our friends of the show over at TurboTax. Listen, taxes used to be frustrating. They used to be difficult. They used to be painful. I know this because we all know this because we live and we've lived through it. We lived through tax season. That's not what taxes are anymore. Now taxes are having a professional do everything for you, getting matched with a TurboTax expert who can take your taxes and do them like he's doing his own, 100% accuracy guaranteed, find every deduction possible, file every single form, and give you real-time updates. We get real-time updates on our fantasy players. Why can't we on our taxes? Now you can. An expert will find you every deduction possible, file every form. Also, you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. There's more things to worry about, like our safety rotation and our number 3 running back. You don't got to worry about the IRS. Now, this is taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live full service, real-time updates only in the iOS mobile app. See guaranteed details at TurboTax.com/guarantees. All right, let's jump back into this. Justin, why do you think Michigan's a coin toss game for me? And I want to just so everyone knows, Michigan is going to be an away game. They're going to be coming, I believe, after a bye, right? Is Michigan the first game after a bye? I think Justin froze. Or did I freeze? I don't know. We might have lost Justin. Or everybody lost me? Guys, if you're in the chat, do you see Justin talking or me talking? I have no idea. Let's pause here for a second to see if we can get this working again. Yeah, Justin froze. Adam, thank you. All right, look. L. Mills says Justin is in deep thoughts. I love it. So we lost Justin. Badger fan, I see you in the queue, man. Just turn your camera on and I'll jump you in here. We just got to make sure cameras are on because we have had somebody join the show without a shirt, which was actually fine, but I don't want the inverse to happen, have somebody join without pants and then click the camera on and then YouTube like kicks me off the channel. So Badger fan, turn your camera on and we'll get you on the show. Here's the thing. My confidence level, man, with football, it's higher because I think the quarterback's going to be better. I think the skill positions are going to be better. And I think the defensive line is going to be solid. I think we're better. But what does better actually mean? It still doesn't mean this is an 8 or 9 win team. And that's frustrating. Like, I don't know how else to word that. You know, the bar and the standard has fallen quite a bit. Now, this is a really tough schedule. You know, I've had conversations back and forth with people who are arguing maybe it's not as tough or maybe it is. Like, this is a tough schedule. You can argue whether or not Michigan is going to be down a little bit or up a little bit. They're still Michigan. It's still in Ann Arbor. You can argue whether or not Iowa loses a lot, and I've made that argument. It's still Iowa. Like, that's still going to be a battle. You can argue whether or not Illinois or some other team, it's still going to be a good battle. Bielema has that game in the right direction. So this is a tough schedule. There's Badger fan. Let's get him on. What's up, man? Thanks for jumping on.
Hey, love the show, man.
No, appreciate it, dude. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Madison.
Nice, dude. What's your where are you at on, or do you want to talk football or basketball? Whichever way you want to go.
I wanted to talk about football. I just think it's
Okay.
it's really sad. Like we fired Paul Chryst after, I think it was just 2019. We made the Rose Bowl, and then 3 years later, he has a downward progression. But we're still getting those good recruits. Like we had some O-line recruits that just didn't pan out. Logan Brown was one of them. I think if you remember him, he was one guy that was like going to be the next great Badger lineman, didn't pan out. Some other guys that I'm forgetting, but like, I don't know, man. I think we let go of Chryst a little too early and like swung for the home run and didn't make it to first base. And the fact that we're talking about if we make a bowl game, it's a successful season. Like if it was just 2019, not that long ago, we were considered just barely below like the Ohio State level. Like we played well with them in the Big Ten championship, and now we're so far behind. I don't know if it's NIL. I don't know if it's players just don't buy into Luke Fickell. I don't know if it's just changing the entire offense really helped or anything. So I don't know.
I do want to get this comment up here quick. Bo Dragon says, I like this guy. So you got a fan already, Badger Man. Listen, I think it's a super fair point. When you let go of Paul Chryst, I do think you dropped the floor of this program. You swung for a higher ceiling. Like you said, you took a home run cut, but you dropped the floor. And, Fickell came in, and the offensive coordinator hire he made was a disaster. There's no ways around it. And that has really hurt this program. I think there's confidence that Grimes is the right guy, but everything you're saying is a super valid point, man.
I only caught part of it, but what I will weigh in on it is, simply put, the floor was going to fall out on Chryst too, simply because this era of football is not fit for Paul Chryst. NIL would have been a train wreck for him because this is not what he wanted to be doing in football. It's all the things that he hates about it. Fickell's better equipped for it, but I think what we found out is that Fickell was a guy who did not have the reps dealing with the level of complicated, program building that we have here. Cincinnati does not have the level of, it doesn't have the same things in conference that you're dealing with. There was a lot more resources available to him in terms of, like, he was in a highly productive recruiting state. He had a pretty good staff, obviously. We know that now. His offensive coordinator is one of the best offensive coordinators in college football. His defensive coordinator is now taking a team to a national title game. So I think the biggest struggle is that guy didn't have a coaching tree. And so he had to lean into a bunch of guys that he didn't really know coming here. My gut instinct is the guys that we have from the Wisconsin side, it would have potentially felt more stable, but I'm not necessarily sure it would be better. Because I think that we were already seeing the fall in talent, and I'm not sure, like, we feel pretty good about some of these young guys. I don't think they would have been able to get this type of talent in there in terms of guys like Dylan Jones and some of the other guys that are going to be potentially taking up a big role as younger players this year, which is the scary part of it.
Yeah, I just don't like the recruiting though hasn't dropped off. Like even during the Paul Chryst era, we were getting guys like Jalen Berger who just didn't pan out. Logan Brown just didn't pan out. I think Bo Benshaw's brother was supposed to be really good, and he just didn't pan out on the line. Had a couple linebackers that didn't pan out. Like the recruiting just hasn't tanked, and yet we're.
What I will say is that, and Ryan, I think will back me on this. If you really dig into the film on some of the players, like there's a substantial difference. Like if you look at offensive linemen, some of these guys that we brought in, like if you watch the film between someone like Kevin Haywood and someone like Logan Brown, there's a difference between watching those two athletically move. And I think that's where some of these guys, like the offensive line classes that we've been bringing in, to me are more athletic than anything we saw prior with under Chryst at the end. They were higher rated guys potentially, but I don't think that the movement ability was there like some of the guys that we have coming in. Like Corey Mandel and Haywood those guys should have been mid 4-stars. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They're just that level of athlete. I think that one thing I will caution is the ratings are not always a true validator of what a player is. And there have been guys where we'll see, like Smith this last cycle at quarterback. One side had him as like a mid 4-star, and another one had, like, I think 247 had like an 87. And it's like, are you guys staying up on this stuff? He's closer to the mid 4-star than he was the 87.
But like the counter argument there is people were complaining for forever under Chryst that we weren't getting the 5-star recruits. We weren't getting like those high-end players. We get a guy like Graham Mertz, who that highest rated recruit to ever come to Wisconsin, and just didn't pan out. So like I don't know what balance you have to find in terms of finding the diamonds in the rough, like the TJ Watts or the Jonathan Taylors, but also wanting to up the level of recruiting to get guys like a Nolan Brown, who may not have been film-wise good, but like people just see the 5-star next to his name and top 30 rated, and they're like, I want this guy.
So
I do think I do think it's a really good question. And because there were highly rated classes under Chris, and then people complain about the recruiting. But I do think there was a confluence of stuff that happened that Fickell is still kind of dealing with, that Chris would have had to deal with as well. Like the train was coming down the tracks for Wisconsin, and that train was NIL, it was recruiting departments, and we weren't in a great spot for that under Chris. And I think that train was going to hit the program regardless of who the head coach was. And Fickell's dealing with some of that. And then there's an element, like I said, is Fickell made a couple bad hires. And I think that's acknowledged by everyone at this point. And that sets some things back. I do think recruiting's better. It's fair to point out that Paul Chryst didn't have a recruiting department for like 8 months, which falls on Paul Chryst. And towards the end of his tenure, he kind of let that area fall out. But there's also no argument that this program hasn't done well enough under Fickell, and they let a pretty successful coach go. And I think it's fair to be critical of that and point that out.
Yeah, what I will say in terms of the recruiting, the biggest difference that I'll say is Paul Chryst, the recruiting under him seemed to be guys that were more polished, but may not have had a ton of athletic upside, whereas Fickell seems to err more on the side of raw physical tools, but a guy who may require a couple of years to polish a little bit.
Yeah. All right, we got to pause there for 1 sec because I have to take a quick media break. Badger fan, you're more than welcome to
decide to turn off on me again.
Yeah, Badger fan, you're more than welcome to hang out to the next segment as well. But we'll take one quick break here, come back. Do want to talk a little basketball portals while I see Cannon L jumping in the show. He's getting off of work. 1 quick second for our friends of the show. We're going to get right back, finish up with Badger fan, then we'll get Cannon L into the show. Also want to say thank you, as always, for everybody tuning in. Mitch Ames says they didn't develop Mertz. That's on Chris also. Chris not having a dedicated quarterbacks coach year after year after year, Mertz having to adjust to new things, new coaches, new systems. I think this program failed Mertz. I've said that a bunch of times. I think he was a very good recruit. Benjamin, last thought here. What's your prediction this year? What do you think this team's going to do this year? And what do they need to do to get you back to be confident?
I mean, it's sad to say, but I think making a bowl game, like being 7-5, would be great. I mean, the schedule last year was a little brutal. You had Penn State, Ohio State, Alabama, Iowa. Like Iowa on the road, it's never easy. But I would like to get back to a point where, we are the trendy upset pick. We've had games where we hung tight with Ohio State. We've had games where we obviously beat LSU. That was under Paul Chryst. That was a heck of a game, if you guys remember that.
I was there.
Yeah. I think if 7-5 and Fickell is saved for one more year, but anything below that, I think you gotta let him go.
Wow. I'm not saying you're wrong.
The only kickback I'll say on that is his buyout is going to be too high for them to let him go. It's still going to be like $34 million. They're not going to cut him loose with that.
But we didn't bring in Fickell to go 7-5. We brought in Fickell to get to that next level of contending with Big Ten champions like Ohio State, contending with Alabama. We didn't bring him in to go below Paul Chryst. So that's my thing. The expectation wasn't that we would be this bad.
I think part of what people will look at with regards to that is also going to be, number one, what was the starting point that he came in, but also you do have to take a look at the schedule a bit. Like our best Wisconsin team going against the schedule that we have this year is probably still going to be like a 10-2, 9-3. Even the best Chris teams. This is a gauntlet type season. Like you legitimately could say we're gonna be probably touchdown at minimum down on Ohio State, Oregon, and Alabama, and that would be even our best Badger teams would be a 7-point dog against those teams.
Yeah. I think I would agree with that. The schedule stuff. Now, I think the one pushback is the schedule stuff, and you can't lose to Iowa by 32.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? It's those type of things where when you can't look outclassed against the teams in your tier. Badger fan, I'm gonna let you go quick, man. I really appreciate you jumping on. We got Cannon in the queue. We're gonna get him in. Do it again, man. Next time we have a call-in show, dial in, man.
Yeah.
All right, appreciate you guys.
Appreciate you. Our guy Cannon L joining the show. What
is up, everybody? Sorry, I just got off work.
No, it's all good, man.
That's why he's got so much energy.
Let's talk hoops. Let's shift gears to hoops, Cannon. Because
I mean, I'll talk a little football too, because I have a little bit more optimism this year and then football than maybe I have in the past.
I actually have a question for Ryan on this.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Do you think that Grimes' offense would have helped Mertz more if instead of what he got under Chris at the end?
Would it help Mertz more instead of what he got under Chris at the end? So that's a great question.
Stylistically, there's some similarities, but it's much more. In some ways, it takes a little off the quarterback's plate.
I think probably a little bit. I think some of the bigger issues with Mertz, I don't think we ever got an actual quarterback's coach to help develop him, to help actually build him a real guy. Like Paul Chris was nominally that, but he really wasn't because he was hands off and more of a CEO. And we had this revolving door of people, whereas other programs didn't do that. That was quite frankly ridiculous. I thought that played a big part. And then we changed systems every year. So it's not just the scheme, but could we have given him one scheme? Like if you told me it was a Grimes scheme for 3 years while he developed, absolutely. But we changed offensive coordinators every year on him too. So it's like new coordinators, new quarterback coach, plus your receivers aren't great. And it is just, he got way too much criticism. It's a good question, but I think it was all of that together.
I don't think Mertz was good in general. Like he went to Florida and has done good, but
he's probably going to get drafted. Mertz is probably going to be a drafted quarterback.
I don't know about that.
He'll get drafted. He'll probably get drafted. He's not going to do anything in the NFL.
No, but he's probably an NFL-ish guy.
I don't think he has the NFL arm strength though. Like he just doesn't. He doesn't have the arm talent.
Yeah, anyway, I don't believe in him. Let's be honest. I don't believe in him in the NFL either. I didn't believe in him. I thought the numbers were somewhat inflated at Florida, so I don't disagree with you. I don't listen. If we were talking about him as a high 3-star, I think everyone's fine with the way his career played out. It's the problem with him was that he was a mid 4-star, so everyone
he
was a Heisman guy.
I'm pretty sure on some sites he was like the 28th ranked player in the class.
He was like 64 or something like that was where he was in 247, I think.
Because he was like at one point he was a high 5. He was a high 4-star, like a really high 4-star.
He was like a 97 for a little bit, I think.
It wasn't a great quarterback class.
He ended up like a 96, I thought.
You know, I think it played into the fact it wasn't a great quarterback class, so he was ranked pretty highly. It wasn't an elite group, but he was a good player. Listen, there's no doubt about it. He had physical tools in Wisconsin. I mean, you can argue how good those tools were, but there were a lot of real schools that wanted him. Wisconsin did not develop him.
Ryan, I do want to throw it. Looking at the guys that we have in this year's class from a tool standpoint versus Mertz, where would you put him?
I mean, I would put him behind.
He's a best third, right?
I would put him behind Burgess. I would put him behind Ryan. I would put him behind maybe third-ish.
Yeah. I mean, Falzone, if we're talking tools, he's behind him too.
He is.
He's just not. He was more polished than Falzone is, without a doubt, to me.
So, Kenny, you want to just talk football? You feel good.
I do feel pretty good. Like, so part of the reason why I do feel good is because I feel like our running game is going to be better this year. And the reason, not only because of who's at our scheme, but I've always been a big believer in Dylan Jones. I think he was the better running back than Darian Dupree. Dupree was probably more ready to come in when he came in because he's probably a better pass catcher. But Jones is
better in blocking too. Initially,
Jones is bigger now. I think Jones has more top end speed. I think Jones is just a better running back. He's better between the tackles and he's a better runner. So I think he'll end up being our starting back because I think Dupree ended up. I think he just got hurt today. I thought, but I think Jones will elevate our offense in the running game. And I like our receivers this year. Like I like that we have the mixes we have between like skill sets, and I think there's some underclassmen that could come up and play right away too. Like I think Hilton Jr. probably is going to see some good amount of snaps this year, and some of the transfers that have came in like Tyrell Henry, he's been showing out pretty well in spring practice too. And then our defensive line, in my opinion, this year is so much better than it was last year. It just is. I think we have bigger bodies that have been in the system for a little bit longer, and I think we'll be able to do a lot better. Now, I don't really like Tressel's system. I don't think it is very good, especially against the run. Like, that's something that we've really struggled with. But I think we're starting to see more and more of his guys that are coming in to be able to play that system. So hopefully, I'm pretty optimistic. And obviously, we have a gauntlet schedule this year, but
yeah,
I think if you go 8-4 this year, to me, that's a win. Just with the way the schedule is built. If you go 8-4, that's a win. 7-5, I'm still a little mad. If we go 6-6, I'm going to be a little upset.
I would hope, man. Listen, if they go 8 wins, that's you throw the parade with the schedule this year. I'm sorry. I know that sounds sad, but if you get 8 wins, it's a huge year.
If they do that, I think you're kicking off to next year and saying, based off that schedule, you've got a shot to have a year where you become the dark horse team, because the schedule lets up a lot. Bo Dragon, you're saying Jones was obviously the best back last year. Listen, I don't want to push back on this because it's just completely different ball game when you're coming in against second stringers or late in the game that it's already decided. But no, I'm just saying, like, from a productivity standpoint, the stats to a point, I like Jones a lot. I think he's going to be the starter this year. I will push back on you. Dupree is the faster player, but I think Jones is a better true running back in terms of being.
I don't think he's a faster top end speed guy. I just don't think he is.
I mean,
he might be quicker.
Media guys say it, so I'm just going with what they've seen.
I would say this on that because I think at that point you're probably arguing between like a 4.48 and a 4.53. They're both in the same tier of speed, in my opinion. I do think Jones is a little more decisive between the tackles. Yeah. And Mitch says Yak was the best back last year.
He's a better fit for a true running back.
I do love Yak, Mitch. You know that.
They're all going to play.
Let's get here. Because we haven't talked any basketball yet. And I got a bunch of comments we want to put over here. Cannon, thoughts on the portal haul? Was it good enough?
So I like what we've gotten so far. Like Boyd, great player, instant. Here's your starting point guard. I like him. He's athletic defensively. He can get to the rim. He's a pretty damn good passer. And I like Rap. I do like Rap. He's a great 4, 5, whatever you want to put him there. Not the most athletic guy, but he can shoot and he can put the ball on the floor a little bit. And everybody in the Discord knows I'm not the biggest Road fan. I'm not. I don't think he's a starter caliber player in the Big Ten, especially at the 3. I don't think he's near us athletic enough to play that. And Ryan, I know you're a synergy guy. You like to bring up the stats, but I've watched Virginia basketball because I like basketball. He's not a great defensive player. He's just not. And the stats may say he's a solid defensive player, but a one-on-one defender, he's just not good. He gets beat off the dribble a lot, and he's just not that. I don't think if he's our bench player, I'm okay with that. But if he's our starting 3, I don't personally like that, because I don't think as a team we're near athletic enough to compete with some of the better teams. We need athletes, and I know you put a poll up. You said, is last year's team more athletic than this year's team? And I think last year's team is, just from the simple fact that I think Tanjay makes it more athletic. Tanjay would have been the most athletic player out of everybody. And I know you said Boyd, and that's okay. Boyd's pretty athletic, and Boyd was definitely more athletic than who would have been our point guard last year. Would have been probably JB. But I think Boyd's similar athleticism to Kamari, to McGee, who I would compare him to, because McGee was probably our most athletic player last year. McGee's really athletic. He just happens to be 5'11".
Yeah, so. I was gonna say he's got more size. He's a little stronger probably in terms of being able to go vertical than what Kamari was.
Yeah, but I like what we got so far, but I still personally think you need a 5, and I still think you need an athletic wing. You need an athletic 3. I don't think we'll get it. I think Rode will end up being our starting 3, which I don't like as much as I've said it.
Yeah, it's fair.
But I think that's what we need.
I would say this, man. Like, everything you said there is super fair. Like, the best thing with this community, man, is disagreements are great. That's how we get smarter. We talk it out. I agree with you. I don't think this team is athletic enough, but I don't think last year's team was athletic enough. So I think that's been a multi-year problem. And you didn't solve it this year, but you didn't solve it last year. And this team was pretty good because they shot the ball. And I think you're going to shoot the ball and space the ball really well this year with this group that you brought in. But it's not perfect. I agree there.
So another thing that Oh, sorry, Justin. Were you going to go?
What? I was going to say, Ryan, do you think it would be worthwhile if you were guard? Would you go after somebody who can't shoot a lick but is a rim runner 3 that can really guard? Like I'm talking athletic guy that can rim run but can't shoot.
At the 3?
Yeah. If he can
like
defend,
a guy who can really guard on the perimeter, because you're probably let's be honest, you're not getting a 3-and-D guy because your 3-and-D guy is going to be somebody's going to start him. That's exactly. So the point I'm saying is you got to look for we're playing Moneyball here. You have to look for inefficiencies in the system, which is a guy who's just a defender that if you hope to maybe turn him into a average to slightly below average outside shooter, but can rim run and really defend on the perimeter, I think I would get that guy.
I would too.
Especially the type of system you're playing now. Like where you're not afraid to run with the ball and push the ball, especially Boyd, because I think Boyd's capable of upping your transition game a lot.
I think, and really quick, I want to hit a couple comments here. Will Hanna says they weren't athletic enough last year. I agree. Bo says Winter's in no way capable of holding down the 5.
He's not.
Eli does point out on 3, number 1 portal class so far. They have their own kind of way of evaluating it, but they do have Wisconsin at number 1. Matt Michaels, who has his own podcast, I go Sports Chat with Matt. I think he's just Chat with Matt. Or Matt, put it in the chat, man. But go check out his work. He does a lot of Wisconsin interviews as well. Says Tanjay was the best athlete this past year by far. All right, to get into your question here, I don't know if yes, because I think you need a point of attack defender on this team. Now, I don't know if it's as much as you need a rim runner. I just think you need somebody who can be a point of attack defender and then somebody who can help out on the glass, because in the 4 and 5 spot, you don't have a lot of bouncy athletes. So if you got a guy like Jones, who we talked about, now he's already committed, but a guy like that with length, defensive ability, and somebody who could grab 5 rebounds a game, this team misses that right now.
Oh my God, I wanted Keontae Jones so bad. Oh my God.
Yeah, he would have been a great fit.
Ryan, that's what I meant by rim runner, simply that's likely to be his offensive skill set. If you're a guy who's an athletic perimeter player but can't shoot, your offensive skill set is probably going to be slashing or just running the floor and getting a couple easy buckets.
To go on to Justin's point, there's going to be a couple games this year where, kind of like how the BYU game ended, where BYU took their best defender, which was Mag. That's their best perimeter defender. And they put him on Tanjay, and they said, all right, do your best. And that's what they did. He ended up locking up Tanjay for the win. We're going to have a spot like that this year where we need a elite defender on the perimeter, and we just don't have that right now. Like, I want somebody who we can put – I don't
Tanjay did have 37 in that game. He would definitely not.
I'm talking about on that last possession.
Oh, the possession.
No, that last possession. He as much as I hate to say it, he D'd up when he did the D up.
Yeah,
it was great D.
He got him into a bad spot.
We didn't have a lockdown guy last year either, so I think it's just a continuation of a problem. Like, when's the last lockdown wing Wisconsin has had? Davis?
Johnny Davis would have been the last lockdown wing, and I
Davis wasn't even a lockdown guy. He was a good defender.
Or Iverson, somebody threw in there.
Yeah, so this team has had that issue, I would say, for like 5 years. You know, they've had a lack of a defense. So I agree with you.
We've been undervaluing athleticism for quite a while.
But this team has been missing that for a minute. And now I think with Rode, and I hear on Rhodey, like I think he fits really well in this scheme. And the other thing I think this team now has is multiple passers, high-level passers, and size everywhere. Like Rhodey's 6'6", Boyd is 6'3", Blackwell's 6'4", Winter and Rapp are 6'10", 6'11", 7 foot. This is a really big team that's skilled, can shoot, and can pass multiple spots. I think it's going to make the offense harder.
Skilled team. Yeah.
Brian, let me ask you something.
Yeah.
So if you had to pick, let's say UW goes and gets one more person, okay? You can either get a backup 5 or you can get a slashing 3, okay? Are you okay if whoever's our starting 5, let's say Greppy and Gerlach, they each play maybe 4 or 5 minutes last year at the backup 5 just to spell some minutes. Are you okay with that, or would you rather spend the rest of our money and get a backup 5?
This is a great question. I want Justin and in the chat too. So the question is, if you have to go one or the other, a backup 5 or an athletic wing, that's the question.
Because to me,
is it a backup 5 or is he going to be my 5?
No, you're not going to get a starting 5 at this point.
Because to me, I'm okay because Gerlach, to me, he's 7 foot. Okay,
let's say what a backup 5 is, though. Are we talking 20 minutes or are we talking 10?
No,
someone who can spell 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 8 to 12 minutes.
Chris, let's just set the baseline.
That might be a little higher, Ryan. I don't know, but if we can find that,
Chris Vogt didn't
that.
play a ton though. Like let's set the baseline at a Chris Vogt type-ish player, like just the type of guy who can come in 10 minutes, protect the rim, rebound, provide some toughness.
I'm taking that because I can bring him in for big moments. I want a guy who I can trust on the defensive end. If I need to make it tough for a team to get downhill in a big moment at the end of a game, I want to have a guy that I can put out there that can disrupt a shot.
And I think people are undervaluing Gerlach because I think Gerlach can be that. He's 7 foot. He has a long wingspan. If he can go out there and just grab 5 rebounds and maybe block a shot, that is okay to me. Like,
Ryan, you saw him in person. Do you think he's ready to play in the Big Ten year one?
I think it's really hard for anybody playing the Big Ten year one. I will point out Cannon is dead on. Like Garlock is a legit 7-footer with pretty good movement skills. I will also point out he spent a lot of his high school life playing in the middle of a 2-3 zone. So he's gonna need some reps defensively.
That's okay. And that's gonna be
okay. I'm just saying there might be a little bit of but listen, it's a tough question to your point, because the answer is this team needs both, right? Truly, the answer is this team needs an athletic wing and a backup 5. I would take the athletic wing, personally.
I would too.
And that's while acknowledging this team still needs front court depth. But I think here's the thing. You've recruited Greppy. You've recruited Garlock. You're telling me you recruited back-to-back years two 5s, and you can't get 5 to 10 minutes out of one of them? I got to put that on the coaches and say, you got to be able to give me 5 to 10 out of 2 scholarship guys. Because this team desperately needs an athletic wing against the Illinois, the Michigan States. It needs I was going to be pretty athletic too this year. You need an athletic wing, so that's where I'll go.
They may actually have a coach that coaches defense.
Yeah. So, but this team needs both. It's a great question, Cannon. In the chat, Mitch says get the 5. Zach says the 5. Adam says the wing. 414 says athletic wing. CJ says backup 5. So it's pretty much split, which I think is true.
But now that I'm remembering, I think we need a 4 too, because Amos transferred. We have no backup 4.
There's a lack of depth in the front
court. Our front court depth is the problem.
We need somebody. We need so many people.
There's people that Robeson is not a stretch 4. Obviously, do you think he can fill in there at all?
Not as a 4. He's a 3.
Not big enough.
He looks pretty thin. Yeah, I was gonna say. I know he's listed at like what 6'7", 6'8".
I think he's about 6'8". Like he's listed at like 6'6", I think, but he's bigger than that. But
is guard going to pull out the small ball lineup? Are we going straight guards in a 5?
We might go 3 guards. I wouldn't be shocked if we did that.
By the way,
we're still really thin in the front court. Like it's been a problem for a while.
Eiler says you got the 2005 Backstreet Boys chain and hat on. It's nostalgia night. I love it. Here's the thing. So yeah, the front court depth is a problem. Now I'll tell you this: they're still looking. The staff knows they need depth in the front court. They're going to get somebody. It's tough now because it goes back to that question for years we've asked, how can you get another Chris Vogt? And the real answer is guys who are athletic can protect the rim a little bit. They don't want to come in and play 10 minutes a game. So you don't find that guy. Mm-hmm. And if you want to find a guy who can play 20 or 30 minutes a game, he's going to cost $1 million as a 5. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's just the answer. So
do you think the way you can circumvent that is go a little undersized? Somebody who's just an energetic rebounder. Like go with a guy that can play the 4 at 6'7", that can really run and jump.
That was Amos.
That's probably where I would go.
I know you guys don't like Amos that much, but that was literally what Amos was. Like he was somebody who could come in at the 4 and was a plus athlete and could rebound.
My pushback on that is going to be, I never had an issue with Amos's athleticism. I had an issue with his feel for the game, which was absolutely problematic at times. He really messed up offensive flow, and defensively at times he would get a little lost. But he got better as the season went on. I still think that if we would have had to play him massive minutes, it would have been problematic for this offense this coming year. I'm a little worried.
Here's where, like, because I agree with you. I didn't think Amos was great last year, Cannon. Like I told you that. I thought there were issues there. But I really hoped he would come back because I thought another year here.
Yeah.
I thought he could take a jump, and then he's a 20-minute guy, and there's your backup 4 and your backup 5. You could flop between the two of them, and I thought that would have been great. But I don't blame a guy for wanting to go get a starting spot somewhere, and so it's a business decision. I would have loved to have him back. Because now you're dead on. Who's your backup 4? Who's your backup 5?
Because I mean, I would assume right now Winner's probably our 5. I think he's just bigger than Rap, and Rap's our 4. But now you have, you pretty much have Greppy and Garlock are your backup 5s, whichever you want. If you want to split minutes, give one more. I don't care. And you have no backup 4. You just have none. It's nothing back there. And then you have no athleticism really at the 3. You have Robinson and Rode are your 3s. I mean, the best athlete on this team is Boyd, because as good as John Blackwell is, he's not athletic. He just isn't. He's not really that athletic.
He's more strong than fast.
Yeah, he's strong, but he's just. I mean, he's not going to blow you away with athleticism. So, I don't know. Guard needs probably 2, maybe 3 more players in this portal cycle. I don't know if we'll get 3, but we for sure need 2 more.
Jason, are you buying Rhodey as a poor man Sam Decker?
No.
God, no.
No, what?
I don't listen. I'm just throwing the question out there. Jason Rhodey as a poor. He says poor man. He's not saying Sam Decker. He's not saying lottery pick.
He's not even the Dollar Tree Sam Decker.
Yeah,
like a 6'6" guy that can pass and shoot and move the ball.
I'm trying to think of who I would compare him to.
I think Rhodes' passing is overrated too.
Oh, he's a pretty good passer.
We brought up
a third of his passes are lobs to an athletic.
What's his name?
He's a pretty good passer. I would push back there. I think he has a really good feel, and I would say this. I agree with you athletically. You could get bouncier at the 3. You get quicker. Coming from that Virginia defense, like he's going to come in with some real defensive principles, which I do appreciate. Like he's gonna be well schooled playing in Virginia for the last 2 years, and that's going to help the team defense, which was a struggle last year. So that's going to be helpful there. We do have to start to wrap this up, but
that's okay.
Yeah, I was looking if there's any other comments in here. Slim Lewis is high in football, low in basketball right now.
What would you compare him to, like a Duye Dukin in terms of athleticism?
Rhodey?
Yeah.
Brevin Pretzel.
No.
Well, yeah, maybe
only like 6'3", 6'4".
Maybe a Dukin type. Maybe
he's lanky but not super athletic.
I'm trying to think. I think Dukin was a little quicker, to be honest, probably. Rhodey's probably a little more skill. I don't know. Somewhere in that vein. I mean, we've had several forwards that I think you could say a little similar even to. Now I'm struggling.
I think we're really looking at, we all agree, the biggest fear with this team coming into next year is that in some ways they almost look like a group of 5 team athletically. Like there's going to be teams that this team scares you a little bit, that they're going to be played against teams that are athletic. They're going to struggle to defend.
Can we find a COVID year for Nigel Hayes?
I would love Nigel. Dude, I love Nigel's game.
Dude, Hayes.
We would actually have somebody who has a post game then.
Oh, I love
Nigel's my favorite Badger of all time.
I love Nigel.
And that's a lot because obviously Chucky's from my city.
I'll never get him over hitting on the stenographer woman.
Oh, yeah, I love Nigel. I'll push back really quick. My final thought on this, and we'll go around the horn, see if anyone has any final thoughts. I think when we look at athleticism, I've said this before, I think people are dramatically underestimating Nolan Winter in this equation. Nolan Winter is a really athletic 5.
I don't disagree with that. I just think the roster in general, from a defensive standpoint, athletically, there's some shortcomings. Boyd is a nice piece. I like him as an athlete, and I think Blackwell's solid, but I think they're really going to struggle with athletic teams because I don't think there's anybody – there's not really a way with this team defensively that you look at that can make up for it if somebody is overmatched, because you don't have a plus athlete somewhere else that can come and help.
Hasn't that always kind of been us though? Sorry.
Yeah, other than 2015, probably pretty close. At most, we normally had like 2 guys that were athletic.
No, I agree. Winter is definitely a better athlete than people give him credit for. Like, he's actually a pretty good shot blocker too. Like, he has long arms. He has a good feel.
There's a path to him being a solid 5 this next year if he can put on 20 pounds in the offseason.
I don't think
he's got to get stronger. He's got
the only problem I have, like Justin said, when we play athletic teams, like there's just certain matchups that I just think we will get. Like if we play a team like
they're going to hunt certain guys.
If we play a game like a team like Houston who switches everything, like we would get massacred just because we wouldn't have anybody to be able to take somebody off the bounce, and they switch everything. So we couldn't run the screen and roll actions we run because they would just switch it. So we would just get absolutely massacred. And on defense, I just don't think we can match up with them. And like that's a very matchup dependent like game. But there's going to be matchups like that where we have to play an athletic team who can just go out there and just out-athlete us. And I'm okay if a team comes out and beats us because they're better than us. I don't ever want to get out-athleted because I feel like that's something that we can control. We can go out and get athletes.
What I will say to that is this team is also going to be much more skilled than a lot of the teams they play against. And
that's fair.
How do you beat a team that's super athletic? You make them work. And that's what I think they'll be able to. This has a chance to be a plus passing team and has a chance to be a plus shooting team. And that's how you're going to mess with a team like that. You're going to move the ball and you're going to try to keep finding the open man rather than trying to penetrate or do anything. Defensively, you're probably going to pack it in a little bit and hope that they rely on shooting from the perimeter. And more times than not, unless it's an elite team, those teams that are athletic typically aren't great shooting teams because they're used to attacking the rim.
Last question. It's a quick one. It's a one-word answer. Ryan or Justin too. If you could get him back for cheap, would you take AJ Storr back?
No, I can answer that question before you even answer it. No.
We talked about defense being a problem. He would be even make it even worse.
He's a slashing three. I would. Okay. If you could get him back for cheap,
he's inefficient. Like one of the reasons this team was so good this last year is that Blackwell and Tanjay were really efficient.
But if you can get it back for $500K, I'm taking him. I'm sorry.
Absolutely ask me to give up burgers or ask me to give up IPAs. Yeah. No, stop it. Get out of here. Here's the thing. I'll just be straight up. Like I don't want. No, AJ Storr was really, it was win last year for AJ Storr. He came in, got better, and he got a nice tag for it. Wisconsin won more games because of him, but we're good. Like middle of the year, that camp was shopping for better offers. That's not good for the culture. Yeah. Like it just is what it is. Like no, absolutely not. It's a good listen. It's a valid question, but I feel very strongly on this one. Absolutely not. And there's people that would disagree with me. By the way,
I don't think he raises the ceiling at all. I just don't. Like he's a chucker.
And I just think if you can get that for cheap, it fills a need that you need. And I know people don't like. I don't think people like AJ Storr, and that's okay, just because the way they burn bridges. But I mean, I've heard from some pretty good sources that AJ Storr and Wisconsin didn't split on as bad of terms as people think. Like they just didn't. So I feel like if you can get him back for cheap, I would take him. I would not be upset about it, but I understand why people would push back on that.
I think your point on this is not totally, certainly not totally indefensible. Like this team needs more athletes. AJ Storr's an athlete on the wing, 100%. That makes sense.
But he is not a defender.
He's not a defender. He doesn't. I don't think he fits this scheme really, really well.
The scheme has changed. That's the other thing. Is it's not.
Just put him in the corner. Just put him in the corner.
He's not going to stay in the corner, bro. He won't stay in the corner.
I know.
All right, let's wrap it there because we've had you on for an hour.
What a great show.
I love these shows. I'll plan out my next call-in show better so we can do a better job of getting people on. And yes, Will, I would take Steven Crowell, my nephew, back. I definitely would take Steven back if we could get him back.
Oh, 100%. We're gonna miss him so. We're gonna miss him so dearly. People don't realize how good of a center he was.
Justin, we didn't even really quick. Let's finish up here because we didn't get into it. Justin, why do you think the Wisconsin Badgers Michigan Wolverines football game is a coin toss?
Oh, yeah. I've said from the beginning on this. I think last year they had a lot of top end talent on that team. And they still finished. They struggled to get to 8-5, minus the game. I think people changed their view of the Michigan team because of that game against Alabama, and that they didn't realize how poorly they looked for the bulk of last season. And you're losing a really good couple of running backs. You're losing a bunch of defensive top end talent, and now you're potentially starting a true freshman quarterback. 2 new coordinators, because I believe they lost their offensive and defensive coordinator. They fired the offensive coordinator. The defensive coordinator is, I believe, got hired somewhere else or to go to the NFL.
I think he went to the league. I'd have to look.
But the point I'm making is this. Everything that was the culture that was on that national title team went out the window because the people that were running the weight room and everything left with Harbaugh. So you're a year removed from that now. You're losing a lot of the guys who are your leaders that were your best players. And now you're going to have to lean on guys who are not really developed yet and try to develop an identity. And if the defense takes a step back and you have a true freshman quarterback, it's a recipe for things to be really rough this year for Michigan. And there's people that are taking that view. Now, does that mean that Wisconsin's going to be – like when I say coin flip, it means Wisconsin has to be better than they were last year. I'm not talking last year's version of Wisconsin team, but based off what we've seen in the early times, if we have a coherent offense and the defense takes a step forward to be at least average, I think that that's a game that we can go into where you can make the argument that our offense is going to be the more likely or more dependable offense out of the two. And the defense, you're just hoping that they can hold on and hold down an offense that might not be a world beater at offense.
They're
going to be favored because it's a home game.
Zach Bart's seemingly in your vein here says Michigan's losing a lot of good pieces. Graham, Grant, Loveland. Man, I loved Loveland. He was great. A lot of their edge rushers. Will Johnson, first-round pick there. Mason Graham's going to be a first-round pick. A lot to replace. Those replacements are unknown. It's still a team that, as Bo said, beat Ohio State last year, won a title 2 years ago, is going to have an $8 million quarterback. We had the number 8 recruiting class in the country last year. Right. So no, I'm just saying, like, they have to replace a lot. They also bring in more talent than Wisconsin. They're going to be at home. And that quarterback, I know we can talk about freshman quarterbacks or not, but you look at the quarterbacks Wisconsin has had the last several years. Yeah. We would take a 5-star freshman quarterback.
There's no argument there. It's just that when you look at that, assuming that a quarterback's going to be good first year is a big assumption, especially when it's not a redshirt year. You're looking at a guy who he could be a bust for all we know, which would really suck for them because they got a lot of money invested in him. But if he's not what they think he is, Michigan's going to be in for a really rough season.
I'll say this, and this is by no means a guarantee. Talking to Brian Smith, who's seen him, I got to talk to Garcia Jr. over at Rivals. I talked to Nick Osen about this, who said he's one of the top 3 quarterbacks on film he's ever seen coming out. We were talking about this. The consensus on Underwood is he is like a 5-star, upper tier 5-star quarterback. Okay. Now we'll see.
Honestly, I never looked at him because I had no reason to.
Yeah,
I don't know.
We'll see. It sounds like he's on the upper tier of that high pedigree quarterback list. And then the other point I make, certainly that doesn't mean he's going to play well. Like high upside for a 5-star still bust. But I don't know if that's any different than us counting on a portal quarterback for the 3rd year in a row, right? Like those returns haven't been that great either. Like Billy Edwards might not have a great year either.
I think like I've said before, my expectation is you're hoping that Edwards turns out to be Cone. Like if that's what you get from him this year, where he looks like him in 2019, this is going to be a really good season for Wisconsin. You're hoping that he can be solid and not turn the ball over.
Jason says Badgers were 2-2 during the Michigan, Iowa, Ohio State, Oregon stretch. Dude, I would love that. Let's go, Jason. I'm here for it. I just don't think it's going to happen. I would love it, though. Question here from Justin. Show us the hair. So, listen, the hair's fine. I was getting crap for my Justin Bieber look the other day.
Yeah, that was an insult, man. I'm sorry whoever said that to you. Listen.
I had like this comb over going. I don't know, man.
He does not look like Hillary Swank, all right?
I look better than Hillary Swank. What are we talking about here? All right, we're going to wrap it up there on Wisconsin. Appreciate you guys so much. As always, I'll do a better job of scheduling these call-in shows so more people can call in. But thank you for tuning in. We will talk to you later. Peace out. Gonna miss Stephen Crow. Gonna do it.